Hello everyone, Andrew Baena here, and on today's video we are going to be taking a look at this. This is one of the most unique guitars that I have in my collection. This is the Ibanez SRC6MS. Is it a bass guitar? Is it a guitar? Well, the answer is it can kind of be both, and that is why it's interesting, and that's why I wanted to check it out. You've already heard how this instrument sounds in a full demo mix in that intro clip there, which was a partial cover of Rational Gaze by Meshuggah, but tunes down a half step to E standard, since that's what this guitar or bass shipped in. In addition to that, I was actually using this guitar for both the bass and guitar tracks, and in this video I'm going to be telling you about the specs and features of this instrument, as well as showing you some solo tone clips, both using the heavy high gain rhythm tone settings as well as bass settings, because yes, you can use it as both. And then last but not least, my thoughts and opinions on this instrument. So with that being said, let's talk about the specs and features of the SRC6MS. So first and foremost, as you can see here, this is the SR Ibanez bass body shape. Ibanez has done the SR shape for a very long time. It's a really popular shape for their bass guitars, probably their most popular bass guitar design. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the scale length of this guitar. So it is sitting at a 28.5 inch scale on the high string there, with a 30-inch scale on the low string here. So as you may or may not know, standard bass guitars are usually 34 inches and standard guitars are usually 25.5 inches. So this again sits somewhere in between, where it's not quite as long as a bass guitar and it's way longer than a standard 6-string guitar. This is definitely the most unique feature of this instrument, and it's what gives it its very cool and unique tone, and also part of why you can kind of use it as either a guitar or a bass. While we're on the topic of the neck, let's keep talking about that. We are looking at a rosewood fretboard with abalone offset dot inlays on the top there, and in addition to that we have medium frets, not stainless steel this time around. Flipping over to the back of the neck, we can see that it is a 5-piece neck, which is walnut and jatoba. The body of this guitar is made out of okume. It looks like it is multiple pieces, as you can see with those dividing lines right there, and if you flip it over you can see it there as well. Also has the battery pack for the onboard EQ system, which we will talk about soon. As for hardware and electronics, we have two Bartolini BH2 pickups, one in the bridge, one in the neck. These are passive pickups, which again, like I said, this battery is actually for the EQ system down here. So speaking of that, so it has an onboard EQ system, which is these three knobs down here along with this switch, and then this switch here turns it on or off. So we have controls for bass, middle, and treble, and you can either boost or cut those accordingly. And then this switch here is actually a 3-way switch, and this actually controls what the mid knob does on this guitar. So when it is in the up position, it is sitting at 250 Hertz, 450 Hertz, and 700 Hertz respectively. Like I mentioned earlier, if you don't want to use this EQ system at all, you can simply turn it off or on using those switches. And then we have a single volume knob, and then this knob right here is actually your pickup selector, and it's not a toggle switch between the two pickups. It's actually a smooth knob where you can blend how much of each pickup you want. So if you want the full bridge, it's that, full neck, it's that, and then anywhere in between. We have a monorail bridge system for the strings with a string through design, and some standard Ibanez tuners up at the top of the headstock there. Like I mentioned earlier as well, this guitar comes in E standard, and it is strung with 24 to 84. So interesting string gauges on here. Again, definitely way thinner than a bass guitar, but way thicker than a normal guitar. I thought it was interesting that the low string is an 84 for E, because I normally use like an 80 for E on a much shorter scale length, so I thought that was interesting. And the last thing to mention with the specs is the string spacing. So a nice thing about this guitar is that it actually has the string spacing of a guitar and not a bass guitar, which means that playing chords is really easy because the strings are nice and close together, like it would be on pretty much any other guitar. Okay, so that pretty much covers all the specs and features of this guitar. Next up, I'm going to show you a few solo tone clips using this instrument as both a guitar and a bass guitar. For all of the tone clips you're about to hear, I was using a plugin called the 1111 by Auto Audio. Big thank you to them for partially sponsoring this video. This plugin can be used both for guitar and bass, so it was kind of perfect for this video. If you're interested in trying it out for yourself, there's a free trial linked in the description and the pinned comment below, and you can also get 50% off using the discount code on the screen right now. With that being said, let's take a listen to some tones. Okay, last but not least is to tell you my thoughts and opinions on this instrument. I was very interested in this guitar the first time I saw it at 42 Gear Street this past summer because of how weird and unique it is. It's definitely way different than anything else I have in my collection. I'm fairly familiar with baritone guitars and even a couple of bass 6 style guitars, which I guess this is what you would consider this, but this one is still quite a bit different than any of those I've had in the past. It's a very interesting hybrid this time around because of, again, that string spacing and scale length. It feels very much like a baritone guitar, but then due to the pickups and electronics, I feel like it sounds more like a bass than a guitar in general, although I was pretty happy with the heavy high gain rhythm guitar sounds I got as well. It's definitely an interesting instrument. Like, I don't really know which of the two purposes I think it is suited better for. It kind of works well for both, but just not in the way that I expected. And I don't know, I just had a lot of fun playing around with this one. It was really fun making that demo track, and I've had a great time getting to know this instrument a lot better. All in all, I really like this guitar. There's definitely nothing that stands out on it as being off or weird or wrong or an error. Everything looks, feels, and sounds really good and feels really high quality. There's no sharp fret ends, and this guitar only comes in at I think around $800 US, so it's not even that expensive. So it's a really cool option to explore something like this, which I guess there isn't really anything else like this out there. So I think that the price point makes sense for the type of thing this is, because it is a bit of an oddball choice. I can see why Ibanez wanted to make something that wasn't crazy expensive, because I think if this was like in the $1,500 range, it'd be a lot tougher of a sell because of, again, I think people are really going to have to get their hands on this to see how they feel about it and what purpose they might use it for in the context of their music. When I first got this guitar, I was originally planning to use it as a mod project where I was actually going to gut all of the bass hardware, bass electronics, and just put in, like, I don't know, Fishmans or EMGs or something like that, and basically turn it into a baritone guitar and just kind of forego all of the bass options. But now that I've had this in my studio, I kind of don't really want to do that because, again, it would kind of end up sounding the same as any of my other 8-string guitars or something like that. And I don't know, it kind of to some degree would seem like a bit of a shame changing this into something that's very similar to something that I already have. With that being said though, if that is something you're interested in seeing me do, please let me know in the comments below because I'm sure I can be convinced. But yeah, all in all, I don't really have any critiques on this guitar. I think it's a really unique and interesting instrument, and it's so unique and interesting that, like I said, it has kind of made me second guess my original plans for this guitar because I do quite enjoy playing it, and I thought that the demo song that I got with this in the full demo mix sounded really, really good despite it having those bass pickups. I was really curious how these were going to hold up when used as a guitar, but I actually think it sounded pretty good, honestly. So that's pretty much going to do it for this video. I am very curious to read your comments, so leave them down below. Again, this is a bit of a bizarre guitar, so I'm very curious to know your thoughts on it as well. Again, I also want to give a massive thank you to the team at Ibanez for sending this guitar over to me, especially Scott. If you're watching this, shout out Scott. He's been my guy there for a couple of years now. Always hooked me up. Been a great time working with Ibanez so far, and I look forward to many more to come. And also a shout out to Auto Audio again for partially sponsoring this video. If you're interested in getting these tones yourself, go check out their plugin. It's linked in the description and the pinned comment below. And last but not least, a big thank you to all my Patreon members whose names are on the screen at this point in time. If you're interested in audio downloads, a shout out on the screen, or stems to try this guitar in your own mix, you can find all of that over on my Patreon page. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to reading your comments, and I'll see you next time.